So God meets personally Paul. Tells him, get up. Let's get cranking, Paul. I got a mission for you. That zeal, the passion, the dedication, the devotion that you had for that, it's nothing. Now I want to make you my own. I want you to serve me for my glory and for your joy. And the same applies to every conversion. It applies to my conversion to faith. It applies to your conversion when you came to faith. That's the plan for all of us, is to step away from our throne that we have created. Why? Because we've made it about our resume. We've made it about our pedigree. We've made it about our race, to use a term that we have heard plenty in the past few weeks. We have created our own distinctions, our own pedigrees, our own differentiations, so that we feel better about who we are in our own skin than anybody else. And God says, enough. Enough of that. Serve me. Here's a new heart. Here's a new life. Here's a new zeal. Here's a new passion for my people of all tribes, of all languages. Make my name known. Understand that their race is something that you have created. Because there's but one race. There's virtually no difference genetically between races. We have made a distinction ourselves. It's a man-made. God says there's a new humanity where there's no longer anyone that should look at male or female, Jew or Greek. I have made all of that into one. If you don't believe me, there's plenty of texts that we could go to. Ephesians 2, texts like that. It's amazing what God has done to create this new humanity. And so, why? Because God wants humanity to know Him and to know Him personally. And to step away from anything that we have added to make it harder to rule on our throne. He wants to be in the throne, or on the throne of your life and my life. He sure was on the throne of Paul's life. He doesn't want you to be the Sunday Christian. He doesn't want you to be the one that can check off the list. Going to church on Sunday, check. Oh, I just joined the new Bethmore Women's Study, check. New Men's Bible Study, check. Daily reading and devotional, check. Daily Lord's Prayer, check. I counted all of these as loss. I want to know Him. I want to know Christ. Otherwise, I'm just religious. Paul's life was never the same after he met Christ. Knowing God personally was everything for Paul. Getting to know His suffering, His death, His resurrection. He's going to get into that even in the next few verses. We're going to get into it next week. Do we value knowing Christ personally? Do we value Christ Himself in our lives? Or do we just go to church? Because if that's who we are, I'm just going to quit. Because I will not do that. I don't believe in it. If churches have to be full of going to church people, it's pointless, it's void. Paul is saying all of that, you think it's a profit, it's a loss. God wants to know you personally. And knowing Christ, the value of knowing Christ is immense. It's infinite. It surpasses anything that we can think of value. So I asked myself, how much do I value? What is Christ worth to me? And I'm asking you the same question. What is Christ worth to you? Because you know what we worship? We worship the person or the object or the thing that we ascribe value to. Right? And in reality, in the Bible, when you look at worship, is ascribing God his worthship, right? And we do the same thing. If God is not the object of your worship, most likely you are. This resume, Paul's resume, the Judaizer's resume says, I worship myself. If God is not at the center as the object of your worship, most likely you're worshiping who you are. Your accomplishments, what you like, what you don't like. You have made it about you. I have been there before I came to faith. I was worshiping myself really well. I did a great job. I was probably one of the best ones at doing that job. Until the road to Damascus happened in my life, and it turned me upside down. Because God took over, he sat on the throne and said, enough of Andrea on the throne. That throne belongs to me, not you. I'm going to be your God. And give me a heart transplant, a heart of flesh. So my question is, do I know God personally? Do I worship him? Do I ascribe to him his worth? Or do I have something else? And even if you're like, well, I love cars, or I love this, or I love that. They're all great things to have, but make sure that they don't become an idol. And now, I don't have time for church. I don't have time for God. I don't have time to be in a relationship with God. I don't have time to read the Bible. I don't have time to pray. I don't have time for everything. You know why? Because you got idols on your throne. There's no room for God. And now you're